It's been a little while since a Polynian figure came out, but now that it's October, we finally have Polynian number 13, Motoroid Marilyn. This is one that I've been waiting for quite some time. I'm actually really excited to open this, only because that design is far different from what we're used to. There's much more accessory built onto the figure, and this one looks nice and chunky, and that's just how I like my robots. So then, let's take a look at the box. As we can see here, we have the figure and a lower opacity version to the right where she's looking rather sensual. On the top of the box, we see a repeat of the pose we had on the front. On this side, we get to see the robot in all its glory, posing and showing off that delicious body and those giant chunky robo boots. And on this side, we have a far more adorable humanoid-looking version with regular legs, looking rather happy. The back of the box is no different in showing the many poses you can put this figure into, and without further ado, let's open the window. As per the usual, we have a lovely windowed shot here where the figure is to the right looking incredibly nice and vibrant, and on the left we have some anime images and even some more pose images that show some accessory. This is incredibly nice. The scheme of the box is no different than the others, but it does just look amazing. And of course, when we remove the film, it actually looks even better. But yeah, without further ado, let's turn this thing around and open it up. Before we continue, I just want to say how good of an idea it was to put gold behind the blue here. That's a really good contrast because these are complementary colors, and as an artist, I'm just oozing over the fact that this figure works in color theory. And inside the blister, we have plenty of accessory here. This thing is actually pretty heavy, so let's get it open. And it would seem that Polynian has decided to finally start including the stands with more of the figures. Maybe she's just a little too heavy to put on a regular stand, but I do like the idea of them giving us more of these bases. They are rather nice to have. Okay, so directly out of the box, I can absolutely see why they gave us the Polynian stand here. This thing is absolutely hefty as heck. This thing is so thick. Those legs are gigantic. I'm surprised though, because the joints seem decently responsive for a figure that's so hefty. This may be the heaviest figure in the line, and I'd say it's definitely heavier than Reimu, and that's thanks to these gigantic boots. The boots are actually pretty hilariously adorable in a way, because there's a heel on them, and this toe can actually be moved as well, so you can make it kind of look more like a water jet character. But ultimately, yeah, this thing is a force to be reckoned with, to say the least. Despite the heft, nothing has fallen off really, so that's a good thing in its favor. The one problem I had with Reimu is that she was breaking constantly, whereas this one, there's some parts that are problematic, but they're the same parts that usually annoy us, like these little parts on the side of the head, and of course the foot could probably be a little bit of a problem because this piece just pegs right off, but ultimately, we're not going to be making these things fight, we're just going to be posing them, so let's get into the articulation. The Polynians are known for these many ball peg joints, which are great because they get an in and out and a swivel pretty much at every joint. So the shoulder, the elbow, the head can also go up and down, twist it side to side, and roll it the way you need to. And of course, the waist is similar to the others where you get a window in the back so that you don't break the immersion in the front. And it does look good, but the problem is it can't bend forward very much. It can get some crunch, but it bends all the way back if you want it to in a full 90 degree or more. The legs, of course, can go in and out. Just be careful due to that weight. You can move them out and in, twist them, and then roll them how you need to. The knee similarly goes in and out, and it can be swiveled at either side. And as we already said, the toe here of the boot, and as I've already said, the toe here can go in and out as well on this little bit of a pinch. Now these giant legs of hers make her way taller than a regular character too, because she came with regular legs, and they can actually be shown to be at least about almost an inch, if not a half inch taller than her regular leg. Next to a character like Mel, she looks absolutely gigantic because, well, she is. She kind of looks like a Pacific Rim robot to me. Still, we love her despite her size. She's kind of adorably clunky in that way. She's like the big girl at the beach. To be honest, I don't think you would even need a stand for most of her standing poses. If you wanted to do something different, you might want to plug it in, but still, this is the stand that comes with her, and it's just like a Figma stand. The thing is 3-hinged, 1, 2, 3, and it gets a good range of motion, so you can do a lot with it. One thing I'd like to recommend is if you're going to do any posing, I would take out the heavier parts first, pose the joint you want to pose, and then plug her back in, because this thing can fall apart. She is incredibly heavy. Now the stand is great, but you will definitely need to tighten it to get her to do any of the swimming poses that are on the box, because if you raise it up, it will fall right back down, and I don't want to let that go because she will just fall and explode. But luckily there are some screws in here, and if you have a small Phillips head screw, you can actually go in and tighten that so it'll be much stronger. And I certainly recommend that because this thing will fall. But let's talk about the design, because actually I really do like this. This is something I've been excited for a while. When I first saw her pictures, I was amazed at the size of those boots, and the fact that she has more mechanics on her makes her just far more alluring to me. I love the humanoid figure, but ultimately adding a little spice of that robotic piece like these jets here and those giant boots just make this look a little bit more appropriate and ultimately a little bit more exotic. I don't know if that's the right word to say, but ultimately it just looks far more interesting to me. She even has additional pieces that you can plug into her to make her look even more like a freaking submarine, but we'll get to those when we get to those parts. Now, of course, since this is a Polynian, she comes with plenty of accessories, and I do mean plenty, so let's get into that. One thing I absolutely love is this little ponytail. It's more like a submarine tail, but you plug it into the back of her head like it would be hair. And just like that, she got her hair did. And I rather like this, because even from the front you can tell that she has hair in, which is nice, because sometimes it's kind of hard to see, because the size of this thing is just so big, though, you can see it from pretty much any angle. And of course, it is on a ball peg joint, so it can go up and down and swivel about, but I don't know if you need to do all that. Now, she also comes with these two little boat-looking accessories, and these can be plugged onto her to even flesh her out more. You could, I suppose, plug them into her hair even, and then you make her hair look even huger, which is kind of cool, really. But she has quite a few peg holes on her where you could plug them into her arms, and now she's ready to use her Motoroid motivator. That's a pretty good attack. You can also flip them the other way, and they would look just as cool, really. And if you want the character to look even bigger, you can plug them into both sides, one in each arm, and make her look even huger. Additionally, she has the same holes on her legs, which would allow you to plug them in down here as well, though they seem to be a negligible effect because of just how big her leg already is. I mean, it's cool, but I don't know if it's necessary down here. It makes more sense to put them on her arms. And can we just appreciate this face for a moment? This is what she comes out of the package with. This rather dead eye sort of stare. The eyes are flat at the top, making her look sort of lethargic, which I actually like a lot. Another fun accessory is these goggles. They can actually be unplugged. And with them unplugged, you can actually see there's two peg holes there, of which if you plug it into the lower one, she now has the goggles on and is ready for a swim. The only thing that I don't like is once you unplug the goggles, there's no way to give her a regular hairpiece. The other Motoroid figures typically came with a flat hair front so that you could actually make them just look like they have normal hair, whereas that's not the case here with Marilyn. So that's a bit of a missed opportunity, but who knows, maybe they'll make it an additional accessory pack. Now the next accessory is another one for her arms. If you unplug these little jets, you can then plug on the gripper claw. And you know what, I don't like that name, so we're gonna change it. It'll go from the gripper claw to the ripper claw, because this thing looks like it could seriously rip up some other robots. These things are like Beyblade, let it rip, because this girl is ready to shred. Do you need your gutters cleaned? We'll call now, and we'll send Marilyn over to rip apart the leaves that are taking your gutters by storm. Can you tell yet that I like these things? Huh? What was the giveaway? I think I just like robots with big hands, because these claws are really cool. And of course you can twist them about as you need to since they're on a simple peg, and they just look cool when you have everything plugged in and make her rather large. They make her even bigger, so I always love that. Now that's going to do it for accessories for her arms and legs, but what about more accessories for her body? Well, similar to the other girls, if you unplug her head, now with her head unplugged, you can take this scuba gear and actually it latches to the little tanks that go on her back. The tanks do rotate, so don't worry about that. You can move them once you crack that paint a little bit, and then, yeah, you just go ahead and pinch this into there. And that looks pretty good. Now there's also a little peg here, so that's going to plug into the back hole. So just plug it in like so. Make sure you latch it on right because you actually need this to go over her neck. And with all that completed, you can plug her head right back in. And now she's got a full set of scuba gear with the snorkel, this little guy, and even this tank on the back. The only problem I see this creating is now you're going to have to plug into the hole right on her butt, which I guess works fine. I just don't like this hole a little bit because it's sometimes harder to get this peg into, so you're definitely going to want to heat her up so that you can first stretch that out and get that in there right so that you don't break anything, or scratch it better yet. To be honest though, I unplugged her and tried to heat it up and get it in there, and it's really only going so far, so it may not even be worth it to do. And now she's ready to go scuba diving. Did you know that SCUBA stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus? Now you do. The only issue I have with the goggles is that there's kind of a disconnect between where the eyes are, and at certain angles it looks like she's wearing them, but at other angles it just kind of looks like they're above her eyes, which looks a little silly. Now, like the other figures in the line, she can of course have her hair removed, and you can remove all of her other pieces if you want, but you don't need to, and then she comes with an additional face. This one doesn't look very much different. I actually don't think it's any different. It's a little bit more solid. The colors are a little different, whereas you actually have rings in this eye, whereas those are just solid blue, but it seems like a waste. She also has even narrower eyes, making her look far more seductive, or maybe even sleepy, because there's a little bit of blush there, but it just looks really tired to me. And finally, some could consider it sleepy, others could consider it happy. I prefer to think it looks comatose, but these flat lines are pretty adorable actually. But now that we've got all that out of the way, let's rip off her arms and legs and turn her into a regular girl. And with her more humanoid features, she actually is incredibly attractive as a figure. I really do like this design a lot. The Motoroid is one of the more interesting figure designs of the Polynians, and I do like that they're fleshing it out to making it seem like the Motoroid is a model, whereas they can have different personalities and types based on the type of Motoroid it is, and Marilyn here is certainly interesting. As a humanoid girl, she has a lovely figure, just like the rest of the characters, but it is the standard Mel design where it's just the body with the swimsuit. Though the hair and the additional accessories do make her seem like one of her own. But it doesn't have to just be like this. You can mix her larger parts with the smaller parts. For instance, you could take off the regular arms and then put on the jet arms, or mix the large legs with the regular arms. It's kind of something you can mix and match and do what you like with, which is nice because it makes them more customizable. And let's not forget how cute of a butt the swimsuit robots have. That being said, this figure was certainly meant to be the chunkier version. So I think that is the design you're going to want to go forward with this because it is the intended design, but this is a nice way to pose her just as well. That being said, she was developed with the other form in mind. She only comes with a couple extra accessories for her regular form. And I mean that by hands, because normally these things come with a lot of hands. This only comes with these open hands, the closed fists, and the closed accessory fists that come complete with a little hole in them. So then, with everything considered, what exactly do I think of Polynian Marilyn? Well, I actually rather like her. Despite her size and despite how cumbersome she can be, she's ultimately, I think, worth the purchase. This figure is certainly different than some of the other Polynian figures, and that's why I think I like her so much. Her design is striking, it's large, and it's bold compared to the very cute little girls and boys of the rest of the series. She comes with a ton of accessories, and of course, she can be swapped around with the rest of the characters, so there's endless possibilities to customizing her. Now, I love solid figures and heavy figures, but the one thing I will say about this one is she may be a bit too heavy. I think there is a certain weight limit, and she does definitely reach it. This figure is a little bit difficult to control sometimes thanks to the weight. The included stand is nice, but again, I don't give it any points like I did with Reimu because, well, you pretty much need that stand to pose her properly. Either way, I appreciate it, and I rather do like the figure, so I really can't be too mad about this one. The design overall is great. There really didn't seem to be any paint application problems, which is wonderful to see because there were in the past, so it looks like Polynian is really changing for the better as they go on. Daibadi is doing a great job with these figures, and I cannot wait to see what comes next. Overall, I'm going to give this figure an 8 out of 10. I think I was a little bit let down because I wanted a bit more solid construction, but that isn't enough of a killjoy to make her even lower in the score. 8 is still fantastic, and I do think this figure is absolutely wonderful. With that said, what do you think of this figure? Why don't you comment and let me know? If you did like the video or the figure, please make sure to like the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do so because I'm always reviewing new figures every week. If you want to watch another video, I'm going to link one on screen, and if you do click it, even if you've seen it, it does help me out, so I thank you in advance. I think that's going to wrap it up, and while I'm still in Japan, I'm going to wish you an amazing weekend and keep on collecting.